So today's film that we're reviewing on Boys on Film is Stage Mother, directed by Thom Fitzgerald. It stars Jacki Weaver and Jackie Beat. And we're reviewing it on Boys on Film today. Raj is here. Hey Raj, it's been a while.
Hey Phil, how are you?
I'm alright, yeah. How are you coping in lockdown? I think the last film review that we did was 2 months ago.
Hey, I'm good, Phil. I'm doing really good. Not going outside as much as I should, but we've been having such good weather. I need to get outside and brave the world again.
So the film that we both watched over the last couple of days is a film called Stage Mother, directed by Thom Fitzgerald, who did a film back in the late 90s. I've never heard of it, I've never seen it. It's called The Hanging Garden. You're familiar with it?
Oh my goodness, that is a blast from the past. I actually own that one on DVD, Phil.
Wow.
I have to lend it to you. I did look it up the other day. You can watch it on Amazon Prime. That's so strange because the tones of these films are completely different.
Really?
It's one of my favorite films, actually. So, wow, I did not even put the two and two together. They're such different tones.
So this film stars an Australian actress who is obviously putting on a Texan accent. I have to say, I was convinced by that. Her name is Jacki Weaver. She plays a character called Maybelline, who is quite a conservative church choir director. She inherits her late son's club, which is called Pandora's Box, so she visits San Francisco. I have to say, it wasn't shot in San Francisco. I fell for that completely. It's shot in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So yeah,
wow,
I think they did a good job.
Real good stock photography for those scenes, because I totally fell for it too.
I mean, to be honest, a lot of it wasn't filmed on location. I suppose you don't see the location; you just see the studio set. So it doesn't really matter.
It might be difficult to emulate a club in San Francisco, a suburban house in the South, and something like grotty San Francisco apartment. So wow, they did a good job at it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jacki Weaver, the actress, she's been in a couple of big movies over the last few years. One of those was The Disaster Artist, which we saw, which we both loved. The other one was Widows. And she's been in The Grudge, the remake, recently too.
Okay, quite the impressive resume she has.
So what did you think of it? What did you think of the story, first of all? For me, it felt like a story that I'd seen before. It felt quite familiar.
Yeah, I really like the fact that, I mean, the son's death obviously is what triggers the whole story. I don't think that's a spoiler, but she's a conservative woman married to a conservative man living in the conservative South, and her son dies, and he's a bit of estranged from the family. He ran off to San Francisco to be his true, authentic self and started up his own drag club. And yeah, when he dies, his mom kind of feels the guilt laying on and goes to San Francisco and ends up taking over the drag club because she inherits it. It's not the most original story ever, but it has a lot of heart, and they really put the focus on the mother's transformation, which I really liked. And her standing up to her, maybe a little bit over domineering husband. And there was one line in the movie that I just really kind of like, I like this movie when I heard it, and it was, I've stopped seeing our son through your eyes now. I just thought it was so powerful. I'm like, oh, that really kind of sums up really what the movie is all about. And, this is a story that's so familiar because it's happened to so many people. Well, maybe not, mothers inheriting drag clubs, but, sons die and they are, blood and family. And, I kind of needed a kind of like a guilt-free movie like this right now. And especially during lockdown, it had such a feel-good feel to it, and I think it was the right time for this movie. I mean, I'm not expecting it to do anything at the box office, so it'll probably be on VOD soon, but I really enjoyed this one. It'd be a shame to see a good LGBTQ film like this fail during lockdown.
I agree with you, because it seemed really poignant. I think there are many plus points to it. Obviously we see her as a character living a pretty unhappy life with her husband, who really is, I don't know, he's the kind of negative aspect of that whole relationship and the whole kind of family unit breaking down. I think he's responsible for that. Obviously very homophobic. He has a problem with his son being gay. So I think she's obviously on his side because she's married to him and wanting to keep their marriage together and keep their marriage thriving. But we see her completely changing when she goes to San Francisco. You see her almost like this weight is just lifted from her shoulders when she meets these people at the club.
Yeah, and what I really liked about it was like she didn't want to go back. She did not want to go back to that life, And in essence, it was almost like her coming out as well. And I just thought, that was, it's a coming out story of a mother who has a gay son, essentially.
Yeah.
Even though she's not gay, to see her embrace and learn a little bit more about the world outside her bubble it was beautiful.
It is a film about her, essentially, isn't it? And how she changes as a person. You mentioned the line, that great line as well. There are so many, I think, in this with the script. One line that she does actually say is, "I don't store my flounce," which I just thought was fantastic, because I'm going to have to use that, I think. But also some of the drag queens as well, the drag queens that she comes in to train almost, because the club's not performing, they need to make money, and these drag queens, who I thought were pretty good to begin with, she makes them even better. But some of those drag queens' names are just brilliant. There's one which was Tequila Mockingbird. I just thought, I mean, as far as tacky drag queen names go that make you laugh, I think that's a winning point. One of the winning points of this movie.
Love it.
I did laugh out loud a couple of times. Did you think it was a funny movie? Because it's not really meant to be a comedy. I guess it's more drama, isn't it?
It's very lighthearted drama, but I laughed. It tickled my funny bone, especially when the sister comes out of the bathroom and she screams, "Oh, I just saw the colonel," and the colonel and two soldiers or whatever, I don't know.
There's also a great scene around the kitchen table where she's finding out about her new circle of friends, and they make a joke about a glory hole, and she's quite naive. I don't think anyone's that naive though, surely, but she seems not to know what a glory hole is, and it was just quite an amusing scene.
Or the hairy beaver, yeah. There's a lot of funny one-liners in there, definitely. The parts of the film is sort of like one of the penultimate drag performances in the movie, where they cover CeCe Peniston's "Finally." I thought that was really nice, and it was really nice to see the drag queens sing and not lip sync, and just I don't know, I needed this type of film right now. I really did.
I did feel a little bit frustrated that the plot revolved around her son's grieving partner Nathan, which to me wasn't explored enough. That whole storyline, I think it could have had a bit more depth. It felt like he was just I don't know, almost like a pawn there that's meant to play a part in the film that didn't really do much.
Yeah, and he kind of just overnight switched his tune, which maybe it was a little like you said, overlooked, and I think it was a little bit overplayed, his character in the beginning. He had such a hatred for her, which is a familiar story. Yeah, there wasn't a lot of compassion there, and usually someone's death sometimes brings more people together. So you're right. They probably could have done a better job in that, but it didn't bother me.
Also, we should say that Lucy Liu stars in this film. She hasn't got a massive role, but she plays quite an important character, and she has issues, and it seems like there are a few people in this film that do have issues for whatever reason, whether it's drug addiction or a partner that's kind of beating them up or being violent and aggressive. It felt like some of those issues were almost forced into the film too, and they weren't really explored. It was almost like they were just trying to prove a point that this is what happens to people. And then I guess it's not really that kind of film. It's more like a feel-good film,
and that could have easily taken over the whole film if they went in that direction. But I think kind of the point for me was, everyone needs a mother figure, and whether that's your real mother, whether it's a drag mother, whether it's your best friend, everyone kind of needs that in their life. And I think that was the overall sort of arch for me, and I enjoyed the way it was told through Mr. Fitzgerald's eyes. So.
Yeah. So the ultimate question then for you, Raj, for such a potentially emotional storyline, were you moved by this film? Because I wasn't moved. I was entertained. I liked the characters, I liked the portrayal, but I wasn't moved. I wanted to have a bit more of an emotional response to it.
Yeah, it's not going to win any Oscars for best dramatic performance. I wasn't moved, but I enjoyed it. For me, it's a solid level of enjoyment, and a film that you can just watch and you're like, oh, that was that lifted me up a little bit. So.
Yeah, an enjoyable, if somewhat corny watch, maybe, is how it should be summed up. Because I think, like you say, its heart was in the right place.
For me, it had that same vibe as Military Wives. Kind of corny, but it lifts you up a little bit. You know?
And also, I'll tell you what it did remind me of. That film Tucked that we saw, that was centred on the two drag queens. One was a younger drag queen, one was an older drag queen in Brighton. It reminded me of that. The feel of the film reminded me of that. It wasn't necessarily an expensive looking film. It felt more like a TV movie.
I actually think I enjoyed Stage Mother more than I did Tucked, though.
Yes, I did as well.
So it's actually, I think it's playing at the Genesis Cinema here in London, so it's getting a little bit of a theatrical release.
I have to say also, I love the fact that they used a real drag queen who was Jacki Beat. Did you recognise Jacki Beat in this?
No. In fact, I didn't even put two and two together until I watched the credits. So I was like, oh, okay. I mean, she does spend a lot of time out of drag.
Yeah.
So that's probably why. But yeah, that was quite interesting. She plays Dusty Muffin.
Dusty Muffin, yeah, another great drag queen name. It's funny because that club, although it was struggling, it felt like the sort of place I'd really like to go to because it was quite quiet, obviously because they were struggling financially. I felt like I wanted to be there. It must be the lockdown fever kicking in because, you know, I've got to get to somewhere where there's like 3 people in the crowd. It's a 3-star, by the way, for me.
I'll give it a 3-star too. Have you been physically DJing anywhere? So.
I've been DJing, not physically. I haven't been out yet. I mean, to be honest, I've not really been out and seen many people. I've pretty much stayed at home. But I've been doing a lot of DJ streams online. And thank God for those, because otherwise I think I just would have gone completely nuts.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to go through our second wave right now. And it's going to be like this for a while.
Yeah. We just got to adapt, I suppose, get used to it.
Yeah.
So more of these reviews online then on Skype.
I hope not. I hope everyone stays home enough and we get the vaccine and we can all enjoy each other's company again. I'm planning going to the movies with my face mask and because you know they just opened up and the last time I went to the movies was right before lockdown started in Austin, and there literally was like 4 people in the audience. I'm thinking about going.
Yeah, because you were talking to me about that and I said to you I wasn't quite ready. I think, well, depending on how this lockdown goes over the next few weeks, I'm not ready just yet, but maybe in a few weeks. But of course that could change. It could get even worse.
Yeah, I think I should err on the side of caution like you are. Although the theaters are probably going to be super clean the first week, and not too many people going. It's probably be the best movie going experience we've ever had.
Yeah, that's probably very true, actually. Well, it's always good to see you, Raj. Hopefully we'll have some more films to review over the next week and some more upbeat films.
I'll be looking out on what's to review. It's kind of slim pickings right now, which is probably why we haven't reviewed films in a hot minute, because there's not much coming out. But,
yeah, it's not because of laziness. It's not because we're bone idle.
Yeah. You know, and there's not been a whole heck of a lot on streaming that's been worth talking about.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Let us know if you're going to watch Stage Mother or if you have seen it already, and don't forget to give us a like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Raj.